Hello and welcome to Collaboratory, the show where Mike Morris improvises an animatic with a little help from our audience. And we get to learn about the craft of storyboarding along the way. This is an improv art stream that runs on audience suggestions. Mike, what kinds of prompts are we looking for from the audience?
Hey everybody, welcome back. We are looking for some characters. We're looking for a setting and a conflict for those characters. So we've done a lot of really crazy stuff, and I fully expect everybody to bring me some more crazy stuff because we love it here at the Collaboratory.
I can't wait to get started. So feel free to jump in with your suggestions. Whatever you type might show up on screen.
Yeah, so I'm particularly excited to introduce you all to my good friend, Rebecca Totman. Rebecca, would you mind introducing yourself a little bit?
Oh, I'd be happy to. So I am a producer of animation, mixed media, and live action. It's kind of been a twisty, turny road. I actually started out in live action on a production design path. And then around 2007, I switched over to animation. I started on Wow Wow Wubsy. It was an absolute blast. And I met Mike Morris around that same time. And then I went to go work for The Simpsons. So I worked there for almost 13 years. And then from The Simpsons, I left to go work for the Jim Henson Company. And I worked on shows like Harriet The Spy and Slumberkins. It's been an absolute blast, and I'm super happy to be here today.
Yeah, you know, and I feel like, you know, animation is just such a special medium in and of itself. Like, you know, the theme for this month is animation itself, like the actual act of animation. And though we don't necessarily do that here on this show because it would take quite a while, but when we're talking about storyboarding for animation, we have to kind of, you know, make sure that we tailor our storyboard style for the eventual production of the animation, right? So unless you're releasing a layout film and you're doing everything in Storyboard Pro where it's just going to be, you know, a pose to a pose to a pose, like some stuff that I've seen, like you kind of have to set up your storyboard to work with the eventual medium that you're going to be choosing. Because I mean, Rebecca, you've worked in several different types of actual animation production.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Wow Wow Wubsy was a Flash animated show. So, you know, popping from pose to pose to pose, whereas The Simpsons is a character layout show. So that's more traditional 2D animation, which was a real gift to be able to work in that workflow, I have to say, because it gave me a very, very strong understanding of producing traditional 2D animation. And then from there, I went to go work on Harriet The Spy, and that was a Harmony Rig 2D animated show. And that was a lot of fun. So it was like Flash, but all grown up. And I just love Toon Boom. Like Toon Boom is such a gift to the industry. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into, you know, specifically from a producing standpoint, like what do we need to look out for when it comes to, like you were just saying, like boarding for a traditionally animated project?
Yeah, because you have a few different factors that you have with, you know, doing boards for the medium. Like for instance, I'm just going to write a couple things down here. So if you're doing stuff for traditional animation, you have a few limitations, but less limitations. There are a few camera limitations. Unless you're going to be blending that 2D animation with some sort of 3D or some bonkers crazy animator that's going to be animating your backgrounds.
Right.
So there are going to be some camera restrictions that you're going to be working with, but you do have access to multiplane.
One of my favorites.
Yes, absolutely. And then Harmony also makes doing multiplane stuff like way easier.
Oh, multiplanes are like the special sauce that it can make a shot go from kind of a normal looking, okay, this is a nice shot, to like, wow.
Yeah, really, it truly can. The other thing you can do a lot more in traditional boards is more acting,
Mm-hmm.
because the acting necessarily isn't necessarily tied to a rig. So you're not going to have to come up with a bunch of different things or you're not going to have to iterate the rig like every time you want to do a specific weird thing.
Yeah, like so you can do more antics and overshoots and things like that without too much trouble.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more, like, I would say, fluid in what you can do with it. Okay, then the other one is a CG show that has like very little camera restriction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can get crazy with the camera. But it is a little bit trickier to set up.
Right, more pre-production work.
Yeah. And you'll often be working within a 3D environment. I'm going to switch pens. This one keeps breaking. Environment. Oh, I think I might have my pen that doesn't work well.
Oh, I was just going to ask, are you talking about your digital pen within the program or your physical stylus?
The actual physical stylus, I think this one's got a problem with it, but I know I have another one around here to replace it with. So talk for a second while I look for that pen.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, with CG, you can, it does take a little more work to set up. It also, from a producing standpoint, it's really important to get the right notes at the right time. Because if you get too far into the process and you start calling notes that affect, like say model, like a character model, you don't want to get all the way to lighting and decide you need to change your character model. That's just takes you back to square one and is insanely expensive and makes everybody redo all their work. So as a producer, it's really interesting because often I'm working with executives who may not have the knowledge that I have about the method of animation that we're doing. So it's really important for me as a producer to inform my executive producers on what we're looking for and why we're calling the notes at the phase that we're calling them at. Because it's really hard to say no to an executive when they're the one that's cutting your paycheck, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you want to be accommodating too. I mean, you don't want to be a person that says no to everything. But at the same time, there's limitations that you have to work with. When in any of the mediums that you have, there's going to be limitations to work with. For instance, when we go to like a rigged environment, you kind of have to control your camera a lot more. Mm-hmm. You have to work. You have to work within the rig as much as possible. And, you know, if you have a good rig, that's not really an issue. You know, a lot of rig shows create some really, really cool work, but there is that limitation that you have to work with, and you can get creative with it too. So I think limitations actually inspire more creativity than they tamp down on.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely.
Because then you're kind of forced to dig in a little bit and be like, all right, how can we solve this problem? Oh, I have an idea. Why don't we try this weird little thing? I don't want to say that one weird trick, because that just sounds like some weird internet thing, you know? Do this one weird trick to do your animation with, you know?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think animators do have little tricks up their sleeves. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that as rigging becomes more and more robust, there's some really cool new features in Harmony 24 around rigging that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that will increase a lot of things. There's one that's like a really simple deformer, and you would have to look in some of the documentation about it. But there's a new type of deformer that you can use for single images that will really revolutionize a lot of stuff. It's like this sort of stick rigging system that when you work with single images, doesn't like pull things in a bunch of strange directions.
Oh,
And,
interesting.
yeah, it would have been very, very handy on some shows that I worked on. So what do we got for suggestions? Come on, folks.
Okay, we've got a conflict. Trying to get your holiday presents mailed out at your awful local post office based on true events.
Oh snap, this is going to do some slice of life this time. Okay, so we need a setting, and not just post office. So we're doing some holiday stuff. We're going to be mailing some packages, but we need a location that's not just post office, because we know we're going to a post office. Where is this post office located, and who is this character that's got all the packages?
Okay, audience, we want to hear from you. And Bart is asking, is rigged the same as cutout animation?
Essentially, yeah. It is. It cutout kind of stems from like the old, days when you would just get some construction paper and cut it out and make a puppet with it. Mm-hmm. But it kind of became ubiquitous with rigged animation.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Like if you look at the first South Park episodes, like the very first ones, that's all just like construction paper that they just literally cut out and were messing around with on a table. Like, then they started doing everything in Maya for some reason, which is crazy to me, but hey, that works. Somebody knew Maya at the time, I guess, and they just like rolled with it.
That seems efficient. And still the style of animation really lent itself well to Maya. Okay, we've got a suggestion. It's a beach town.
Beach town. Okay, I like this. So we've got let's see. I was born in a beach town, so that really
Were you?
Yes, I was. Fountain Valley, California.
All right. What part of the state is that in?
What?
What part of the state is that in? Fountain Valley.
Orange County.
Oh, really?
County. Yeah, it's right next to Huntington Beach.
Oh, okay. I've driven through there a million times and never knew it was Fountain Valley.
Yeah. Well, most people don't. They go to Westminster and then straight to Huntington Beach, and they pass by. Fountain Valley is like slightly inland from the actual beach part, but like it's.
I love it. You got your palm tree going. Okay, we need some characters, folks. We need some characters. So we've got trying to get holiday presents mailed out at the awful local post office in a beach town. But who's mailing these packages? Mike, I wanted to ask you, what's inspiring you these days?
A lot of different. I pick up inspiration from all sorts of places.
Sometimes
it's from like weird stuff my kids do. That's really funny, or like the funny things they do, little quirky, like looks or mannerisms that they do. A lot of people know that I'm a D&D nerd, and that inspires me in a lot of ways. From just a storytelling perspective. And then, I don't know, I try not to draw too much inspiration from other media. Because I feel like that's kind of like a trap. I think it's a creativity trap. Because you're witnessing the creativity of somebody else and not necessarily like going to the well of where creativity really comes from,
Yeah.
Which I feel like is experience.
I'm often inspired by music for visual art. There's something about the music and what it does to my brain that really gets me going. Okay, we've got some suggestions here. One, that this beach post office actually starts. Hold on, let me go back. That it actually starts at the North Pole. The line ends at the beach, but starts from Santa's workshop in the North Pole. That's an idea. And we've got some character suggestions here. Thank you, Jay Bishop. Stanley Spriggs, a clumsy but kind-hearted inventor. Stanley loves creating bizarre gadgets, but they always seem to malfunction at the worst times. He's perpetually disheveled with messy hair. You know, I could see how it would be hard for him to get everything together to go to the post office and send the thing. And also,
I have a
like,
feeling
what if
Stanley might be somebody's OC.
Yeah,
I think so. That's highly specific.
that is. And maybe they're a cat human type of person. We also got a human cat. I like that. Stanley, the human cat inventor. And we've also got maybe a surfer dude like Pauly Shore or Good Burger Guy. Oh, that has to be the person at the post office.
Oh, yeah,
Stanley. Sure. Right. Okay.
I think here's the post office right here. It's just going to be like on the beach.
Okay, I love this. I think it's really important never to lose sight of what inspires you and to continue to find things that inspire you. I don't know. It's a question that I like to ask people, and I probably will forever and all time, is what inspires you? Because what can inspire one person could also maybe inspire me or help me think about things in a different way. So I love hearing that you're inspired by your kids and their quirky little looks and things that they do. I'm sure that's an endless well for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just people are inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at, there's always going to be that one person that that just sees life in a different way, and those are the kind of people that inspire me because I feel like so much of the time that we people defer their creativity. They sort of say, "Oh, this thing was creative, so therefore I'm going to do that." Mm-hmm. Instead of going through the struggle of creation, they just sort of defer their creativity. And I'm not trying to knock anything, but I see that a lot in a lot of anime stuff. Is people say, "Oh, this was good, I'm going to do that," and they draw that all day, and I find it to be a very formulaic in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so they're deferring their own creativity to someone else's work, and you kind of have to do that to a certain degree because, that's how you learn, but it has to stop at some point when you figure out the kind of stuff that you like to.
Yeah, it's so interesting what we were just talking about, how, with rigged animation specifically, it can be a real blessing to have those constraints. And even within a medium like anime, you have a lot of constraints there, and there can be some creativity that thrives within that constraint, but it's a real balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like that age-old adage, rules are meant to be broken. And I think animation is that's one of my when there's a shot that hits so right with the story and you're just like, whoa, how did they do that? That's a moment where it's almost like you're seeing that creative play in action of whoa, how did they do that? Everything's been done before, but it's just a matter of when and how you do it exactly.
Yeah, and then there's been a lot of really awesome animes that I've watched before, but my problem stems in the fact that people aren't embracing their own creativity, and trying to see not how somebody else sees the world, but how you see the world. you know, and I may have told this story before, but you know, I think it's worth repeating. And I was at a Comic-Con a long time, and I was at the Wacom booth and talking with people, you know, after doing a demonstration, right? I was drawing there, and I ended up in a conversation with this young lady, and she was showing me her work, and a lot of it was, you know, the aforementioned anime stuff, and she was doing a lot of the, you know, sort of Tumblrverse type things, and then so I was looking through it and not, you know, necessarily looking for problems, but it was not necessarily that interesting to me because I'd seen that kind of thing before, and it was kind of, you know, something that had been, you know, it's fairly common, right? But then I turned the page and there was a picture of an octopus there, and I was like, oh, okay, there you are. And she's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean there I am? It's like, well, this octopus here, you didn't have a template to work from. That's you. That's how you saw it. That's your interpretation of what your senses were telling you, right? That's you.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully she walked away from that with something. But I am a person that is very much for creativity, you know, on the whole. And I like to see it when people, you know, bring that new voice to something that hasn't necessarily been seen or known before, you know?
I do know as a producer, when I'm onboarding people, I'll look at everybody's portfolio, but you know what's the first thing that I click to is their sketchbook or their life drawings, because it's exactly that. I want to see their voice through the page. I want to see what their doodles look like. I want to see what their life drawings will look like, because I can infer. And I'm not the only one, obviously, who does that. Like lots of folks do that. But like there's, you like you said, there's you can show your personality. You can't help but show your personality through your sketchbook, through your little doodles and ideations and things like that. So I'm glad you supported that artist in that way. I think that's a very valuable lesson. Let's talk about this shot, because this is a really cool shot that you're setting up. I really like it a lot. I like how it looks like it might be a bit of like a banana pan kind of shot.
Just a pan, yeah.
Just a straight up pan, okay.
Just a straight up pan over. But because I think we need to establish the tranquility of the beach, and I need to frame this a little bit better because it's not framed right. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
Make sure that the palm trees aren't cut off. The clouds can get cut off a little bit because, again, pan. We don't need to worry about that so much. But let's drop a couple of keyframes on before and after. And let's come over here. And we'll shrink the camera down to our necessary information.
Okay.
Which is these paths. And the post office here. So here we go.
Okay, love it.
And let's delineate this path a little bit more. We could add all the bells and whistles, of course. That's what layout people are for. That's what background designers are for. So we're not gonna belabor that. And then we are going to copy or duplicate this particular panel and get rid of the keyframes that we do not need. And then let's adjust a couple of these keyframes so they're not like at the very start and very end. Awesome. All right, so we're going to come through there. You can kind of see the thing progressing. And then we're going to see our hero come through. And let's pick a color for this person for now. Let's give them a nice grayish purple color, maybe a little more bluish.
I've got a technical question for you, Mike.
Yeah, what is it?
What are the icons at the bottom that read 5, 15, etc. in red, blue, and white?
Those are my specialty brushes.
Oh, okay.
So you can create specialty brushes, and in this case, all of these brushes are for different things. Like, for instance, should I pick that 15 brush? Now I have a brush that's a size 15, and it's blue.
Okay.
Those are presets, and I like having stuff customized where I actually can see it at a quick read.
Yes.
So the ones that
keeps
have
the workflow tidy.
the ones that have slanted type are like slightly slanted in their line.
Okay.
And the ones that are straight are just round like that. That's all it is. It's just a customization that anyone can do in theirs. Some of these are note taking. Some of them are draw behinds. It's just to make the process quicker.
Thank you. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were doing a blue purple for our character.
Yeah, we were gonna get like a nice darker color in there for them, so they can be a little bit differentiated from the background. And so we're gonna have, let's see.
Now we're setting this up as if it was going to be animated traditionally, like traditional 2D animation. So
Absolutely.
Is there any like little spice we can throw in it that is achievable for 2D animation that would just differentiate it from more of a rigged setup?
Yeah, I think so. So, can you read back the Stanley?
Oh yes, absolutely. Stanley Spriggs, a clumsy but kind-hearted inventor. Stanley loves creating bizarre gadgets, but they always seem to malfunction at the worst times. He's perpetually disheveled with messy hair, and we decided to make him a cat-human hybrid.
Okay, so then his hair is going to be like the weird tufts around his side, and
maybe he could have a weird like crinkly whisker on one side or something.
Yeah. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. And he's in a rush because Christmas time is upon us, and we'll give him a stripy tail.
That's going to be me later today.
You're going to be a cat with a stripy tail?
Maybe, or just go to the post office.
Oh, okay. I was confused there. Like, what are you planning? Just some slight genetic modification for an afternoon. Hey, why not?
Why not? Oh, you wouldn't believe what you can do with AI these days.
Slice my jeans. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that, and then we'll just have him running across the path here.
Yeah, if you guys have any more technical questions, feel free to put them in the chat as well, and we'll hit them as we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to ask you a really nerdy question that nobody asked me, but again, as a producer, because I want to make sure that all of my artists have all the tools that they need to be able to do their job to the best of their abilities, and do it in a way that makes them very happy. One of those ways is the nibs on your stylus. What kind of nibs do you like to use, Mike?
I just use the standard ones. I mean, the nibs for the Pro Pen 2, which is what I'm using right now for Wacom side, they're fairly standard. They got rid of the spring nibs from the Pro Pen 1, which was where like there was a much larger variety of nibs to choose from. Some people really like the felt ones.
I remember.
But I tend to crush those like way too fast. So I'll go through felt nibs in a week.
Oh, goodness.
And they can't do that. So I tend to just go with the standard things.
Okay, thanks.
There's some other tablets like the SenseLabs 24, which I've got some experience with now. That one has some other nib technology that they use. It's just all what you like. I'm sure that I've tried a Huion one before, and they have a different style, but I think they also have a powered pen. So, it's kind of just what you like,
So just
like
try
what you
out. Would
like,
you give any advice?
what you can afford. I would say get something that you can afford that you like. I really like the Wacom stuff. I really like the Sense Lab stuff. But try some stuff out. Go to the shows. Go to the like Lightbox and some of those other things. They have a lot of different things. Some people like iPads. That's a kind of a big deal now too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are you doing now with him?
So he's going to go into the post office now.
Awesome. Okay, so we're starting on the beautiful beach, and then we're panning over and trucking in slightly to Stanley running into frame. Oh, I like how he's curving. I feel like that's one way, like you said, that we can really take advantage of the traditional animation style here. Yeah. That's what I think about when I think about traditional animation. Is I think about characters turning their head. I think about them, anticing, overshooting, maybe exaggerating expressions slightly, depending on your style. Or going way back to the squash and stretch, styles, which
it all goes back to squash and stretch. Like everything in animation is a bouncing ball, really. It's just bouncing balls in a more complex way.
Mm-hmm.
When you really get down to it, the timing of a bouncing ball and everything, the slow ins and slow outs, that teaches you so much, and people discount that. But doing a really good bouncing ball exercise is actually quite difficult. If you want to do one that really sings, that doesn't look self-motivated, that is fairly is technically well done, is more difficult than you would think.
I believe it. So what's your favorite part of the process of traditional 2D animation?
That's what I thought I was going to be. And when I was growing up, I was like, I'm going to be a Disney animator. I'm going to be one of those guys that takes a lead on a character, and because I'd watched all the specials and the shows and the things that they had put out from years past, and I was very, very inspired by those. But I did get a little bit of chance to do that on Princess and the Frog as an intern. That was kind of helping out here and there, I guess. And
wow,
whatever
as an
capacity,
intern?
Whatever capacity that they would let me as an intern.
Did you get to do some in-betweening?
Yeah, I got to do a little bit of in-betweening, but that be that as it may, it wasn't anything of any real significance. So mostly just tests and things like that to show in my reviews. Mm-hmm. But it was really exciting to be there during that time and see all of the stuff that was happening there, because they hadn't really done any 2D features for a while, and Ron and John, the directors, really wanted to do one again. So I got to go to like things like dailies where you would see all of the cool new shots that were coming out and people doing their thing. It was really inspiring to be there.
Amazing.
That was like that 6-month period where I left The Simpsons.
Oh, really? I guess I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Well, it was when the digital stuff was starting to take off. Mm-hmm. When The Simpsons switched from being on paper to doing tablets and Harmony and stuff, the Storyboard Pro.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, I'll tell you.
It feels like an age ago, but at the same time, it feels like yesterday.
So when I first met you on The Simpsons, you were doing character layout.
Yes.
And so I wanted to ask you a little bit to, I guess, explain what a character layout artist does, because with rigged animation, we don't really have that. We go from boards to animatic to shipping that overseas for animation.
Well, what we've done is basically roll the whole package up together.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're actually doing in a lot of these boards is character layout in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're putting the poses in, but we're just not in betweening them. Like there was two approaches on The Simpsons that people took to character layout. There were some people that did more like animation drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who like in the classical sense did layout drawings, which was this is where the character is going to stand at this particular moment in time. This is where they're going to be here. This is the action that's happening, and the timing is set. So animate within these boundaries, basically, is the classic sense of character layout.
Mm-hmm.
And other people would do more animation drawings, which was like, you know, these are the key frames that you're going to use to do this animation with, you know.
Again, the special sauce in a way. Like a character could move from here to here, however, and you could be mathematical about like, well, then they got to be here, and then they got to be here, and then they got to be here. But throwing in that special sauce of like, well, on pose 2, not only are they going to be there, but they're going to do this other little flourish to get to the next pose.
Sure. And that happens a lot. And you have different people that have different ways that they operate. And I think that's awesome that that sort of thing exists. A character layout, you know, in the sense of what we used to do isn't necessarily that prevalent anymore. So it's unfortunately an art that's kind of fading away a little bit, but hopefully we'll see a resurgence in schools, I hope, from people that actually know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be like a training course in and of itself.
Yeah, I want to loop back to that thought in a minute, actually. But I've got a question here from one of our viewers. He's wondering, do you miss working on paper?
Sometimes.
Do you?
In my heart of hearts.
Do you?
Yes. I miss the smell of paper, oddly enough. Because okay, all right, you guys. So animation paper and regular paper are not the same thing. Okay?
No.
So animation paper is like way more sturdy. It's much more like if you can imagine just really, really high grade paper. That's what it is. And you put it on a light table and you can see through it really, really well. It's not cloudy. It's not, the fibers are not uneven. It's really, really well done, especially if you got the cool stuff from Chromacolor like we did on The Simpsons, because that was like primo paper. There was Cartoon Color in Los Angeles. I don't know if they're around anymore. Lightfoot Limited somewhere was in Orange County. And then Chromacolor was Canada, I think. And Chromacolor had, in my opinion, had the best. I think I still have some Chromacolor paper over there. But I do miss the, putting the paper on the pegs. And you can see how drawings relate to one another a lot better, I think, on paper than you can on the computer.
Do we have an onion skin feature?
There is an onion skin feature, yes. Yes. This is very true. However, that being said,
and perhaps copying and pasting might be a little easier.
It's how I grew up. How I grew up. And so, it's hard to just cast that sort of thing aside when, that's kind of how you learned.
I was just going to ask. Yeah. So are there some things that you learned by animating on paper that are like foundational to how you animate digitally now?
Yeah, in certain ways, I think it's more hybridized than anything else because there's advantages obviously to digital that you don't have on paper. Like if I mess this up, I couldn't just grab it and skew it over and be like, all right, well, now it's fixed. I'd have to be like, well, nuts. I have to go to the copy machine, or I don't miss that. Or I have to erase this whole section and redo it. I don't necessarily miss that. But it was important for me to go through it, because I feel like when there's so much like readily available forgiveness for drawings, I think you don't learn how to draw as well.
Interesting.
I just think that I don't want to say that digital like ruins things for people, but I feel like you have to have that experience of making mistakes. There's a cost to mistakes.
Yeah.
There's a certain repercussion that a mistake like gives you that you don't necessarily want. You know? And paper is a much more difficult taskmaster in that way. But I don't think if you want to become like a hardcore artist, you want to get really good, practice on paper.
All right. You heard it here, folks.
Do your production work in digital. Draw on paper for all your private stuff. If you know, like you said, Rebecca, keep a sketchbook, an actual book. Like, I can just reach down over here and get mine.
I'm going to give a little shout out to Toon Boom right now from one of our viewers. Oh, is that your sketchbook? Here, hold it in
it's
front
actually,
of.
I got it from a show from Toon Boom. It's a harmony sketchbook.
Well, it's just making. There you go. Kind of.
It's shy. It's really shy.
It is.
It's the old harmony logo. So there's like, no, we can't show that one. It's the old logo.
Flavia says, of all the software they tested, Toon Boom had the most similar features to the animation Lightbox.
You know, you're right, because it was based on that. Harmony, it was based on traditional techniques and incorporates a lot of new digital stuff. And so does Storyboard Pro. Storyboard Pro is sort of like an offshoot of Harmony in a lot of ways. They use a lot of the same things like the brush engine and such. That way it can translate between the two softwares very easily, because similar engines breed similar results. But this is just focused more in a certain way, which is geared towards storyboarding instead of, full animation production.
Now, do you still, let's see, so you wouldn't go in on like when I think of Harmony, I think of, Simpsons pipeline, where we would use Harmony to go in on a shot by shot basis and fully lay it out. And you could fully animate it within Harmony if you'd like. Is that how it's still used? Like, how do you use Harmony versus how do you use Storyboard Pro?
Most of what I've done in Harmony is either been in my capacity as an animation director for like fixing Harmony scenes that have been set up already, or I've done traditional animation within Harmony. So those are the two capacities that I have used Harmony in the most. There's much more that I have to learn in Harmony because I've been so focused on Storyboard Pro for a long time that I have to get back on with the Eat Your Peas mentorship and some of those great people over there that can help me learn how to rig properly, so I don't feel like a dummy when I talk to them. There's always
something to learn, huh?
Yeah. I mean, there's always something to learn. A little while back, I got into 3D printing, and so I needed to learn how to do some sort of simple modeling, just so I can, make stuff that I want to make with my 3D printer. So, I mean, there's always something new to learn. There's always something new, some new way to grow. And I think that's exciting about the creative space. There's never been a better time in the entirety of human existence to be creative than now. There is more availability of not only tools, but resources and and free stuff. I mean, you never had the idea of free software back in the day. The idea of software alone back in the day. But let alone something as open source as a lot of the stuff that you can get now, or just an inexpensive subscription to Storyboard Pro. Heck, they will give you a free 21-day trial just to try it out.
There you
get
go.
3 weeks to make a project. I mean, that's one of the taglines of our show that you'll read later, that Rebecca will read for you later.
Well, you can definitely do your bouncing ball test in that time.
Yeah, you should. You should be able to do that in a day, if not 6 hours.
Now, I don't know about you, but near me, I have the Burbank Library, the Buena Vista branch, and they have a room that you can go into, and they have got everything set up so you can animate in there however you want. They've got 3D printers too. Like, you can just go to the library and do this kind of thing if you're not already set up on your own. So like you said, there are so many resources. Oh, look at him. I don't even know how he got those packages through the door, but I'm impressed, Stanley.
He dipped down.
Nice.
We could even dip him down further. Behind the counter.
Maybe one of those packages goes flying off.
Yeah, there you go. I think we'd need one more pose in there.
Okay. No, it's probably more important to finish it up than it is to add the little.
Again, one of the cool things about digital is boop.
There you go.
Couple of small packages falling off. And you have to see the last one kind of fall. Sound effects really help with this kind of stuff, where you can see, like, smack, smack, and then fall.
And then crash as you hear the glass breaking inside the box.
Whatever, small explosion. Boom.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Actually, we should probably do that because that's funny. So
well, he's a kooky inventor. Who knows what's in there? Oh, there he goes. So actually, on The Simpsons, we do character layout, and then the overseas studio would add the in-betweens and do the final line.
Yeah.
But one of the exceptions was in effects animation, like explosions.
Oh, yeah.
And our effects animators would fully animate those effects.
With Brees and John. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a couple of crazy dudes.
They can make magic happen.
So funny and so fun. I remember having some fun conversations with Brees, who is very French and very opinionated about what is good and what is not. And so hearing him go on rants was always really funny, because he wasn't wrong most of the time. Some things were like stylistic choices and stuff like that, but when he would just like haul off and just go on a rant about something that he didn't like was always really fun to watch. And then John, the other effects guy that I knew, who sort of sat near me, was just a gem of a human being. He was soft-spoken guy, really knew what he was doing, had very, very focused. I think that's what you need to be a proper effects artist, is you just need to have razor focus on what you're doing.
Absolutely. You hit on something really cool that I guess I don't often consider, which is part of the creative process, and part of, honing your skill is really honing your eye. Right. And like Brees was very opinionated on what is good versus what is not good, especially in terms of animation. And I think in my experience also, I'm an artist as well, but not a 2D artist like this. But I feel like having that discernment of what you feel is excellent versus mediocre is just so important.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to that question that I first asked you of what inspires you, right?
Right. You know, and when I was first, I went to CalArts, and when I was first there, I kind of had a small existential crisis. Because like I realized in a lot of ways I didn't know what I liked. I mean, I kind of knew from stuff I liked in childhood. I've always been a big fan of, you know, comic book heroes and a lot of that stuff, and sword and sorcery flicks from the 80s. But like when it comes down to like, I'm going to make a film, and this is the film that I'm going to live with for the next 6 to 8 months. What do I want to make a film about? And I don't think at that time in my life I was self-possessed enough to really know. So I made a film about something, an idea that I had. And I don't think it was like super effective. I think I didn't start making films until like my senior year that I really wanted to make. Like that I had an inkling of something that I felt passionate about.
How did you find that passion?
It was kind of capitalizing on, well, so I did a film about an alligator who was addicted to a certain kind of hot sauce. And it followed my incredible addiction to sweets. So he would eat this hot sauce, but it was really bad for him because every time he drank it, it would set him on fire.
Oh.
And so he would like physically be on fire every time he drank it, but he couldn't get enough. And at the end of the film, sorry, spoiler alert, I don't know if you'll ever see it, but he goes so far as to try and steal a crate of this stuff from a gator killer. Like he's got a like floating dock or something like that with all of these gator carcasses on hooks. And he like steals from this guy and gets chased down by that guy, and eventually gets away by pumping a couple of frogs full of the hot sauce and throwing them like grenades, and eventually gets away. But at the end of the film, he goes so far as to, he gets washed up into his gator hole where he started from. And then what washes up after him but the case of stolen hot sauce. And he like drinks it all like right away. Like it was a great scene to animate because it was like 20 different bottles of hot sauce. And then he spontaneously combusts into like this pillar of fire. And right as he is ascending to go to heaven, the devil opens up the gates of hell and with a bottle of hot sauce in his hand says, ha, ha, ha. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And he just goes straight down to hell for his hot sauce. So
like you said, really it's about your personal story here and what you bring to the table. It's about your addiction to sweets.
Yeah, and baked goods. That's why I'm a jolly chubby guy.
Oh, great. So is this the professor peeking out? Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's him. Our Stanley. Hopefully we're doing this gentleman's character some sort of justice. We'll give him some little weirdo ear hairs.
I like that.
And a disheveled business suit.
Perfect.
Or like the professors with the elbow patches.
Yes, exactly.
He'll have another hand over here, so we're not just popping a hand off of there. So one of the things that you should be careful about when you're doing boards, especially if you're going to like do layout-ish type stuff, is not having things pop on and off. You kind of have to have some sort of progression there, because these are going to go into an animatic situation. So you have to have a little bit of progression in the fact in this. How do I describe this? You have to show if something goes off screen, you have to show it starting on screen and then progressing to go off screen. You can't just pop things on and off, because then you're being taken right out of the filmmaking, right? And your audience will have a problem with that.
It will look like a mistake.
Yes, it will look like a mistake. Exactly. So even if it's something as small as this hand not going off screen right away, it's a fairly small thing when you think about it, but it sometimes comes down to the little things.
Filmmaking is so interesting. It reminds me of, in live action, the constant quandary that is a dinner table scene. Like, keeping continuity in a dinner table scene in live action is almost impossible to do. At least in animation, everything's pretty tied down, so it's a little easier to keep that continuity there. But it's just, filmmaking, there are a lot of things to keep track of.
Well, you also have the nicety of, in an animated film, your actors don't have to go to the bathroom or get up and move anywhere, so you can keep them there for a month on end.
It's true. All right, he's in a hurry.
Everybody from the live action set has to go home for the day.
Yeah, and you may shoot the same scene over the course of days,
Yeah.
I mean, we have script supervisors in live action.
if you're trying to tell us that animation is better than live action, I'm sold.
All right. They're different. I love animation, though. I love animation because of exactly all the things that we're talking about in terms of, setting up rules only to break them. You have so much bandwidth in animation as far as character design and how the characters move, and background design, and how the characters interact with the background and with each other. And they can do things in very unexpected and unconventional ways. And that is very exciting to me. Yeah.
I always liked I don't know if it was an urban legend or a rumor or something like that, but it was rumored that Alfred Hitchcock told Walt Disney one time that he was a little jealous that if he had a trouble with one of his actors, he just crumpled up the paper and walked away.
Well, yeah.
So we put this bell there, so we have to use it, obviously. So it comes in, thunk. Boom, 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 boom. Hey.
Okay, how are we going to get out of this shot now?
So,
because we can't flip around
sort of center here.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we need is an over the shoulder.
Love it.
With
our Pauly Shore post office person.
Yeah. Let's see. We have him here, and we're in the we're not doing pretty drawings part of the show.
Yeah.
We didn't do a lot of pretty drawings to begin with anyway, but they're going to get even worse. And I think that's another thing that, a lot of aspiring, or, I don't like that term aspiring necessarily, because you are that. You just need to build up your skills. So you have professional aspirations maybe, but I tend to hesitate to use aspiring animator or aspiring story artist or whatever, because I feel like, if you want to be that, then be that. And you just have professional aspirations.
That's a good way of thinking of it. Yeah, I have to confess that one of the questions that I had prepared for you does have that term aspiring in it. I wanted to ask, what advice do you have for aspiring or on the professional track, traditional animators?
You know, there's always going to be room for that kind of work. I mean, give Aaron Humiston a follow on LinkedIn.
Okay.
ERAN Humiston, because he's a traditional animator that has worked on a bunch of stuff, and I really like his work. But he posts things about stuff he's done for Bob's Burgers. When they want something that's a little bit more dynamic than what the rig is built to handle, they just give it to him, and he'll animate it, and they'll just clean it up or whatever. So this skill will always be needed, because at the end of the day, what are we looking at but images in succession, however we want to get there, right? 'Cause it's just frame 1 to frame 24, and that's a second, unless you really want to get crazy and go with high frame rate and you blow your brain, your eye sockets out with all the work you have to do to make up for that frame rate.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, it's all going to be a succession of images. And so the better you are at understanding how motion works to synthesize that progression of images, the better off you're going to be, right? So I think the skills translate into whatever you do in animation that, and especially if you want to be an indie animator, you want to just make YouTube shorts, There's people that make whole careers out of that. So, it's a skill that I don't think is going away anytime soon.
That's so nice to hear. And I see that too on the professional side, because on the producing side of things, I want to be able to produce something that can be made and not, blow my budget out of the water. But I also want it to look special and be engaging and captivating to the eye. And I think you're right. I think traditional animation is definitely not going anywhere.
There's a certain warmth to traditional animation that I find if it's done correctly. If it's not done well, it's easy to it's easy to dismiss it if it's not done well.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you look at it and you're just like, there's something off about that, but I don't know what it is. Because as people, we build a subconscious visual library of things that we see and experience, right? So we understand the way people move. We understand the way people look and the gestures that they make and the timing that's fairly applicable to any kind of human movement, right? I think that's a lot of the reason why when you watch anthropomorphized humans, it kind of makes it easier to do that sort of stuff because people aren't necessarily expecting them to move exactly like humans do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see somebody that's a human on screen not walking in the right way, it's really easy to pick it out because you have this visual subconscious library in your brain of how things should look. And when they don't look that way, it registers as fake in your head. So it's imperative to understand not only how motion works, but be so understanding about how motion works that you can then manipulate how the motion in your animation works.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be able to understand it so well that it becomes second nature. And then you get into the acting part, and then that's when things start to get really interesting. So I don't think the skill is going away anytime soon, and the artists aren't going away anytime soon. It's just going to be a different era of tools. But you can tell when there's somebody who's with this whole and I don't want to open a can of worms with this, but you can tell in the AI revolution when people are like making these AI videos, they're like, oh, check this out, I got this thing. But it's like filmically, it makes zero sense. Like you look at it and you're just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. The storytelling's not there. The motion isn't there. Things look fake in your mind because they aren't like, it's not hitting the same kind of expectation that your brain is expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's so interesting. And I feel like the better it gets, the better our eye gets. It goes back to what you were just saying about we have this visual library in our head of how things move. And I think also the same for images is we can quickly discern between what has that human touch and what does not. And I know it'll continue to improve, but I also feel like our eyes will continue to improve as well. So it's so interesting. And I don't know, I think about comedy. I've been partnered with a couple Groundlings writers, and we've been developing an animated series that we're pitching right now. And I love traditional 2D animation for comedy. Of course, I kind of grew up on The Simpsons in that way, and I was in the storyboard rooms. I was, a part of the process the whole way. And so I really understood how to get laughs with your drawings and the timing of them. But it would be so hard to get that nuance and get that comedy if you're running it through a computer program, because it's not just about like evenly spacing every single drawing, right? The humor can be found with popping things. Actually, like we said earlier, we create these rules and then we break them. Sometimes it can be absolutely hilarious to have a character pop on.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly, so I agree. I love this conversation. I'm so inspired. I feel like, yes, please, people, keep practicing your traditional 2D animation and keep going, because I find it just totally inspiring.
And I think the biggest thing, especially in this age of convenience, is to embrace the pain, for lack of a better term. It's going to be hard, and you're going to have, I'll tell you a very personal story, right? So I was on, like I said, I was an intern on Princess and the Frog, right? And I was there at the office I had a little cubicle in the Hat Building, where feature animation is at. And I had one night where just nothing was working. I had come off a really terrible review, and I just absolutely bombed it. And I had a moment where I was just tearing at my brain, like, what is wrong? How am I not getting this? What is wrong with me that it's not happening? Mm-hmm. Right. And I had again, that another one of those crisis moments, and sort of like broke down in my cubicle. So, I mean, I understand that the struggle is real. It is real. But at the same time, people are more than struggle. You are more than the struggles that you have. And I think that there's just a little bit of patience that you have to give yourself and say, look, I'm not getting it right now, but that doesn't mean I won't. I just have to keep going.
So what do you do when you run into a problem like that you can't solve right in that moment? Like, how do you work through that?
Either with patience or, do what they do on that millionaire show that used to be on TV. Phone a friend.
Oh.
Check the internet.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
There's lots of ways now.
There are so many ways.
But you can you can work through the problem. Like, you have to identify the issue you're having, first of all. Is the issue technical? Is the issue emotional? Is the issue artistic?
Are you hungry? Or are you tired?
Yeah. Or is the issue physical?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's the case, that it is one of those things. And then you can, it's just a matter of being able to calm your emotions down long enough to identify and analyze what the problem is, and then be like, all right, I can solve this. I just need to, get my act together again a little bit, and not let something this small defeat me.
Mm-hmm. Or big.
there's more strength. There's more strength in people than they give themselves credit for, I think, a lot of times.
Is there a common issue that you run into when you're storyboarding?
People don't know how to do perspective. That's a technical issue a lot of the time.
Perspective is tough.
But I think it a lot of time comes down to confidence and the ability to play.
I like that.
Right? Because I think, especially when we become adults, we stop playing around. And it's one of the reasons I love doing this show so much, is because it gives me a chance just to goof around on things and just do something crazy and wacky that isn't necessarily under a crazy deadline, except for in 15 minutes is our deadline.
Yeah.
I did it again.
What'd you do? Some pop?
I accidentally deleted a panel, and thinking it was going to be a duplicate. I just deleted it.
Uh-oh.
That happens every so often. I just wanted him to have like a little ding,
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? Why is this guy asleep? And then we can do a cut in, and I'll take this panel here, and I will just copy it, and I'll paste it into a new thing. And why go through the rigmarole of redrawing that when I can just reframe it?
Love it. And no trip to the copy maker needed.
Yeah. Although I think that's where I met you, is at the copy machine.
Probably.
And you had like a bunch of script stuff, because you were always hogging the machine with.
Yes. Yes, because the Gracie team reviewed storyboards on paper at that time. So yeah, it was a little tough from time to time. We'd have our storyboard artists work till the last minute, and then we'd have to print it out and make copies and get it over to our approvers that same night often. So there were a couple times when I was driving over to Brentwood to drop off storyboards.
Oh, geez.
But then we switched to digital reviews, and that was nice. But again, as a producer, like, oftentimes my job is helping the executives and the higher up creatives understand what they're looking at and what notes they need to be calling at whichever phase. It's just about communication and transparency, really.
And to add a little bit of that polyshortness, let's put some sunglasses on the top of his head.
Love it. Oh my goodness. I watched, in preparation for this live stream that we're doing, and specifically about traditional animation, which I absolutely love. I rewatched the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse on Apple TV. from a couple years ago. It's really just such a beautiful piece of animation. Oh my goodness. But I was really breaking it down because I was thinking about specifically storyboarding and how we storyboard for traditional animation versus storyboarding for CG or rigged animation. And there were a couple shots that really stood out to me. I was like, okay, those are the shots where they sunk a lot of time into. Like one of them was, I love the banana pan, you know, where the character comes in close to frame and then walks off as we're panning.
Yeah.
And there was one in there that was really nice where the fox kind of goes back behind the frame. So he adds that, creates that additional depth. And that's got to be hard to animate because when you're animating in that, what is that? The Z space.
Oh yeah.
You know, where they're getting larger and then shrinking down. That seems to me like maybe particularly difficult for traditional animation.
Well, unless you're James Baxter, then it's like breathing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. James Baxter is really, really, really good at spatial awareness in his animation. It's uncanny, the skill level. You know, you'll have animators like Eric Goldberg that can just do wacky, fun, wild, bouncy, amazing stuff. James Baxter, who is like a master of all of the things. And then, you know, Glenn Keane with just such feeling and passion. And Mark Henn with amazing control over his animation. Every animator you look at and you can see like the different specialties that they bring to their animation. You know, Andreas Deja, who is an excellent performer, and in a lot of different ways, like they each bring that specialty to their particular brand of animation. You can't say one's necessarily better than the other. They're just different in a lot of ways, but they're all masters of the craft. And so like looking at those different animators and seeing the stuff that they do and how they do it is important, but learning the fundamentals underneath that is more important because like these guys are like, they're master observers. They see things. They see things how they happen. Eventually, when you start animating a lot, you'll break down. You'll see somebody walking on the street and be like, "Huh, all right, 12 frame walk cycle, love it," and you keep going. You know, like you start breaking down things that you normally wouldn't talk about. Like there was a story about Hamilton Lusk, one of the old Disney. But this is before the 9 Old Men. Even he was one of the people that was involved with the first Disney movies. Him and a couple of guys were on a boat and he took his tie off and he watched it wave in the wind and he was like, "Hey, check this out. Like, look how it turns. Look how it, does its thing." And they were observing because they were kind of making it up as they went along. So you don't have to necessarily make it up as you go along, but the observation has to be there. You have to look at things and break it down in your mind and be like, all right, well, this is how this moves, and I need to get this into a very direct, succinct portrayal for because that's what you're doing. You're an actor with a pencil. You're doing a performance. You're not just doing a technical stuff. You need to be so good at the technical stuff that you get to the performance.
And then you're just a professional people watcher.
You'll go to Disneyland for an entirely different reason. Because
I bet
there are all kinds of interesting people there at Disneyland.
At the zoo too, right? A lot of animators love going to the zoo.
Oh, the zoo. The zoo's great. The zoo's great for watching both the animals and the people. And the people that look like animals. I remember that one Simpsons episode where they did the people that look like things. It was way before our time on the Simpsons, but there was a guy that had like a head that looked like a pumpkin, like a jack-o'-lantern. And he's like, we just want our fair rights. He's just like, and a new candle every now and then, and a new, wait a second. And he was like, oh man. Because they were insinuating that all he wanted was a new candle for his pumpkin head. All right, so.
Okay, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, man? I think we're going to have like the cat guy and the dog guy. Just kind of like, actually, I think what we need is another pan. We're going to have the thing right here.
Okay.
We'll have the big boxes right here. He'll have
perfect. That's what I was picturing. Right him like just pushing it across.
Yeah.
If we have time, maybe he can like throw his money and run out the door. I don't know that we'll have time. One of the other things I love about traditional animation is when characters morph. It's particularly difficult. And I was noticing in The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, there's a point where the horse morphs. And I was really happy to see that because for me, I was in preparing for this stream today. I was thinking about like, okay, what's particularly difficult in the world of traditional animation, but also spectacular, and the morphing is one of those things. And I think to your point about specific animators having their strengths, one of the animators that we worked with on The Simpsons, who's now gone, but Istvan was so amazing at the morph. He could get one character to just completely transform into something different in the most astounding and beautiful and also kind of disturbing way. It was so great. Almost like, motion graphics artists do now. I feel like motion graphics kind of leans into that world.
Yeah.
But are you?
I remember Istvan. Yeah, he had a lot of really interesting. He had a very interesting approach. I would say his approach was very different, and I think a lot of that comes from him being with the show, like since Klasky Chupo, because Klasky Chupo was like a lot of Eastern European guys, and they have like the Zagreb tradition of animation, which is way different than what we would have in the West for a long time. And,
I don't really know too much about that.
Yeah, they're Eastern European animation. I mean, I think at some point the Simpsons like poked fun at some of the Eastern European animation for being kind of weird, but like there was like an Itchy and Scratchy cartoon that they made that was an Eastern European one that was really kind of funny, but that was a tradition that Istvan was from, and a lot of the Klasky Chupo guys were from. So I mean, that's how you see the difference in the styles, like in Rugrats. That was like very markedly different than a lot of the Western stuff because it was Eastern European.
Cool.
And again, that was from a cultural tradition and background that we didn't necessarily have here, but it translated into something that was also very beautiful and different.
We're coming up to that point, Mike. We're running out of time. We have about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Can we play this for our audience?
Not yet, because it's not done.
I love weirdness because weirdness makes me feel something. I'm always craving having a visceral reaction to an animated piece.
Yeah.
I was so grateful. I was a judge for the LA Animation Festival this past year. And there was one piece in particular, it was a stop motion short. And it was so weird. And I remember writing in the thing, I'm like, I really love this because it made me feel like something. Like I felt a little cringy. I felt uncomfortable. I was like, oh, what am I watching? And I absolutely love that. And I feel like animation can really dive into that in a way that's hard to get from other mediums. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do some pretty wacky stuff in animation that you can't necessarily do in live action.
Oh,
and I think that really animation really lends itself to a lot of interesting things and different things that you wouldn't necessarily that it would take a lot of visual effects, which essentially is animation, to make it possible.
Mm-hmm. So keep it weird, folks. You got a shout out on the panic in the face of the cat versus the dog's face there. This does not care. I can't wait to see this. This is so cool that you're able to put this together on the spot while we're chit-chatting about this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
Look at him go. We never named our Pauly Shore post office person.
Okay. Chat, we need a name.
We need a name. We've got Stanley.
Solly Poor is the best we have right now.
Yeah, I have to say, on paper, it would be impossible to get this much done in this amount of time. I have actually a light table disc that Mark Kirkland gave me.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got his little name tag on it too, Mark Kirkland. I'm like, okay, someday I'll have a setup and maybe I'll teach myself how to animate very poorly. I'll continue to to hire professionals.
For those of you who want to learn how to animate, get Eric Goldberg's book, Character Animation Crash Course.
All right.
It is probably one of the best fundamental resource books I've ever had. And it's really good at just explaining things. There's a glossary of terms in there. So if you don't understand even the terminology, then it's there for you to understand because he's just written it all out. Like, this is what this means. That's what this means. And you can really get a good sense of what you're doing, like, right off the bat. Again, you just have to stick with it.
Takes time.
Yeah.
You got to put in those hours. Go through those sketchbooks.
I'm going to copy this camera position. Put right here. Boom.
Uh-huh.
We still have that.
What's he gonna do? Well, we sure covered a lot today. It's been really fun chatting with you. I feel inspired. And it was such a pleasure judging the LA Animation Film Festival and seeing all the student films that come through. And I'm continually inspired by students. So I I think you're right. I think traditional animation is going to live on. There are so many benefits to really knowing the practice.
Yep. And with all these people in the AI companies like wanting you to give your creativity away, nah, it's not worth it. It's kind of ironic because they only live on the backs of other people's creativity. So I don't know what their game plan is there. And then now we're going to go back to, I think we'll go back to the very, very beginning shot.
Okay. Well, AI is a tool, and I feel like what we were talking about today, which is as an artist, continually keeping track of what inspires you, paying attention to how you see the world and how things move and work within the world you see, and really understanding who you are as part of it. Like, AI can't really do that. Every single person has their own perspective on the world, and I feel like that's so special. And we as humans want to see, we just connect with you through your authenticity. So staying true to yourself and your strengths is so important. And it's really important within the world of animation, like you were saying, with these amazing animators and their particular strengths, is like knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, and continuing to hone in on those skills. Yeah. I think success is the only way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You did it.
We're down to crappy drawings now.
All right.
And then the post office is going to shutter. And blow up.
It's gonna blow up. Well, he didn't even look at the rules when he was passing those packages across the table. They say no explosives.
Well, I mean, you can get away with a lot in cartoon land.
Yeah, kids don't try this at home.
One of the things that we can do also is, our guy is just not hurt.
Yeah.
He's just burnt to a crisp a little bit. I think maybe like a couple of like surfboards are still, messed up over here.
He's like, okay, it's time to get my coffee.
Yep. So I'm gonna hit the beach, man. And then just maybe have this guy pop up, like gnarly. He's just walking away. I'm gonna go catch a wave, bro. Yeah, this is not the most satisfying ending ever, but let's go this back. We're over time. All right, we start in on a lovely beach, and had we had the time, we could have populated it with a bunch of people and people surfing and cool stuff that we're just going to do right now. And actually, we need to go to the camera view. What am I doing? All right, so gonna go and we pan over to a post office, and we see our boy Stanley running in. Gotta get it sent. He's like busting. A couple of packages drop. Boom, 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 boom behind him. Hey, post office guy. Hey, ding, 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 ding. He just. And just kind of like, ding. And then he wakes up. Oh, hey, what? Oh, what's up, man? You got a package? He's like, yes, I have a package. I got a package that's going to explode if you don't send it up quick. Or no, actually, let's try something else. I'm going to give you very specific instructions. If you don't do it right, this will explode. Yeah, calm down, man. It's going to be fine. No, you don't understand. It will explode.
Nice.
Yeah. Sure. All right. It's later. And they just, we didn't set up the camera right. So we're going to set it up now.
Okay.
A little late in the game. So Stanley runs over from the post office and just dives behind a thing because he knows the guy's not handling it properly. And then boom! He's like, hey, you were right, man. And then he walks off and goes down to the beach.
Yay!
We're just going to copy that panel, and he's just going to go walking along.
Amazing. I found that ending pretty satisfying myself.
Well, somebody did. I'm glad. I'm glad somebody did.
Well, Mike, thank you for joining us once again for Collaboratory. Do you have any projects or topics that you would like to draw our attention to?
My company, the Projectorium, is working on a game right now called Treasure Party for PlayQ. We're doing a bunch of the artwork for the holiday cards have just been released. So if you like a fun match 3 game with collectible digital cards, check out Treasure Party. It's on the App Store and on the Google Play.
Fun. Thanks. And thank you to everyone who joined us today for Collaboratory. If Mike Morris can draw this little animatic in 90 minutes, think about what you can draw in 3 weeks. You can download a 21-day trial of Storyboard Pro from our website and find free video tutorials at learn.toonboom.com. And if you're looking for more interviews, be sure to visit blog.toonboom.com for articles about storyboarding, animation, and 2D games. Until next time.
See you guys. Get your free trial. Make some stuff.
Yeah, go make things.